The hall of Velthakar Palace was filled with silence and high-ranking aliens. The air was thick with pride and tradition. At the far end of the room stood the alien Baron, tall and sharp-eyed, known for his power and strictness. Before him stood Mason, a human engineer brought here as part of a rare interspecies alliance. Mason wasn't a soldier, nor was he a leader. He was just a man who built things, machines, tools, devices that helped people. But today, he was the guest of a powerful alien family who did not fully respect him. The Baron looked down at Mason and then made a signal. 2 guards entered the hall, carrying a levitating platform. On it lay a young alien woman, her pale blue, skin glowing faintly, her arms resting motionless on her lap. Her body was thin, unmoving, and her eyes stared at the ceiling, blank and silent. "This," the Baron said with a mocking smile, "is my daughter Lura. She is of no use to my house. I offer her to you, human, as a gift." Murmurs filled the room. Some aliens laughed under their breath. Others watched in curiosity. They all expected the human to be shocked, maybe even insulted. Mason didn't react the way they expected. He stepped forward, looking at the woman on the platform. She seemed more like a statue than a person, but her eyes flicked toward him for a second, just a second, and in that moment he saw pain. Not physical pain, but the pain of being treated like an object. "What happened to her?" Mason asked calmly. The Baron raised a brow. "She was born with a failing spine. She cannot walk or fight. Useless to our house. But perhaps you humans can find some entertainment in such burdens." The laughter returned, but Mason wasn't listening to them. He was still looking at Lura. "I accept," Mason said. The room went silent. The Baron tilted his head. "You accept?" Mason nodded. "Yes, but she's not a burden. She's a person." He walked over to the platform and gently placed his hand on the side, showing no fear or disgust. Lura turned her head slightly toward him, confused and wary. Without another word, Mason pushed the platform out of the hall, leaving behind a room full of stunned aliens. Mason's workshop was on a small colony world, far from the center of galactic politics. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was filled with tools, machines, and parts of all kinds. It was quiet, peaceful, nothing like the cold palace halls. Lura was placed gently in a custom chair Mason built in a day. It supported her back and neck, keeping her comfortable. She hadn't spoken much since arriving, only short replies and long stares. "Why did you take me?" she finally asked, her voice flat. "To prove a point?" Mason looked up from his workbench. He was building something, a set of small mechanical joints and circuits. "No," he said. "I took you because no one else there saw you as a person. They called you useless. I don't believe that." "You should," she said sharply. "They're right, my body is broken. I can't move my legs. I can't hold anything for more than a minute. You can't fix that." "I fix what others give up on," Mason replied. "That's what I do." Lura looked away. Over the next few days, Mason started observing everything about Lura's condition, how her arms moved slightly, how her fingers twitched, how she spoke. He scanned her nervous system, studied her spine, and checked every signal running through her body. Lura didn't speak much, but she watched him work with quiet interest. No one had ever spent this much time trying to understand her. One day, Mason walked in holding a strange-looking brace with soft padding, wires, and small motors. "What's that?" she asked. "Phase 1, Mason said. "It's going to help. Support your back and keep your posture aligned. Eventually, we'll get your upper body strong enough to support lightweight control arms." Lura narrowed her eyes. "You really think you can make me move again?" "I don't think," Mason said, walking over. "I know." He carefully helped her into the brace. It clicked softly into place around her shoulders and lower back. It wasn't heavy, and it didn't hurt, but it felt strange. "Comfortable?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Not bad." He smiled. "Good. Next, we teach your muscles to remember what they forgot." The next 2 weeks were filled with small exercises. Tiny movements of her fingers, slow shifts of her shoulders, and eventually, gripping soft objects with her hand. Laura grew frustrated at times. "I'm not a child." "No," Mason said. "You're a fighter. But even fighters start with baby steps." She hated how true that felt. But by the end of the second week, she could move both arms freely. She could lift a cup. She could press buttons. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel like her body was a prison. One night, as Mason worked late at his bench, Laura watched him. "Why do you care?" she asked softly. Mason stopped and looked at her. "Because someone once helped me when no one else would," he said. "Now, I help others. That's how we change the galaxy." Laura didn't reply, but she smiled, just a little. And Mason knew. This was only the beginning. Mason woke up early, as he always did. The soft blue light of the twin moons faded as sunlight slowly filled the workshop. It was quiet, with only the sound of machines humming in the background. In the corner of the room, Laura sat in her custom chair. She was awake too, already practicing the small movements Mason had taught her. Opening and closing her hands, rotating her wrists, lifting a ball and placing it back down. "You're up early," Mason said, walking over. "I couldn't sleep," Laura replied. "I wanted to try again." Mason smiled. "That's a good sign." He knelt beside her and gently adjusted one of the straps on her arm brace. "Your muscles are adapting faster than I expected. You're stronger than you think." Laura didn't reply, but something had changed in her eyes. The blank stare she once had was gone. Now there was focus, and something close to hope. Later that day, Mason showed her something new. It was a large mechanical frame, shaped like an exosuit but much lighter. It had slim arms, a flexible spine support, and carefully placed joints that would respond to nerve signals. "This," he said, "is the next step." Laura stared at it. "You want me to wear that?" "Not yet," Mason replied. "First, we test the nerve sensors. If your signals are strong enough, this suit can follow your movements. It won't move for you, it will move with you. And if the signals are too weak, then we make them stronger, one step at a time." Mason helped her into the frame, slowly. It clicked into place with gentle sounds, hugging her body without adding pressure. Cables connected to her arms, back, and hips. He handed her a small control pad. "Press the green button," he said. Laura did. A soft vibration spread through the suit, and the motors came alive. She could feel it, not like something separate, but like an extension of her body. "Now try to lift your right arm," Mason said. Laura focused. At first nothing happened. Then slowly the metal arm on her right side moved. It shook a little, but it rose halfway up. "I did it," she whispered. "You did," Mason said proudly. "And tomorrow you'll do more." The days turned into weeks. Each morning began with physical therapy. Mason built new tools for her: weighted gloves, moving hand grips, finger flex trainers. Laura's movements became faster, more confident. She no longer needed help feeding herself. She started writing, drawing, and even coding simple programs. In the evenings, Mason showed her combat footage, real battles from across the galaxy, not to scare her, but to teach her strategy. "Combat isn't just strength," he explained. "It's timing, focus, patience. You don't need to be the strongest, you just need to be the smartest." Laura listened carefully. The more she learned, the more she believed in herself. One night, as Mason adjusted the sensors in her leg brace, Laura asked something she hadn't before. "Why do you think I could be more than just fixed?" Mason paused. "Because I don't want you to be fixed. I want you to be free, free to choose your own future. But I can't be like them," she said. "I'm not a warrior, not like my father wanted." "Maybe not like him," Mason said. "But you can be a warrior, in your own way." Laura lowered her gaze. "They called me broken, a joke." "Then let's rewrite the joke," Mason said gently. "Let's make it legendary." 1 week later, Laura stood. It wasn't perfect. The exosuit held most of her weight, and her arms shook from the effort. But she stood. Her feet touched the ground. Her head rose tall. Mason didn't clap. He didn't cheer. He just nodded. "You're ready." "Ready for what?" Lura asked, her voice trembling. "For the world to see you." Mason entered her into the open trials, a neutral event held once every cycle on a nearby planet. The trials welcomed all species, warriors, tacticians, and engineers. There was no rule against her kind. But no one like her had ever competed. "You don't have to do this," Mason said. "No pressure." Lura looked him straight in the eye. "I want to." The registration officers stared when she arrived. A noble daughter once hidden from the galaxy, now stepping forward in a slim, powered frame. Whispers followed her, but Lura didn't flinch. She walked slowly but proudly. When she was asked for her skill level, she answered, "Beginner." But in her heart, she knew she was something else now. Something more. That night back at the workshop, Mason brought her a simple gift, a white cloth band with a symbol stitched into it, the human symbol for rebirth. "What's this?" she asked. "A reminder," he said, "of who you were and who you're becoming." Lura held it tightly. "I'm not just walking," she whispered. "I'm rising." And Mason, standing beside her, knew something that not even the Baron could understand yet. The galaxy hadn't seen Lura's best. Not yet. The open trials arena was unlike anything Lura had seen before. Giant stands filled with alien spectators of many species looked down on the fighters. The ground was a mix of stone and metal, with different obstacles spread around for tests of strength, speed, and skill. Lura stood beside Mason, her exosuit gleaming under the bright lights. Her heart beat fast, but her face showed calm. This was her moment to prove herself. "We start with the simulation tests," Mason said softly. "It's a way to measure your reflexes, coordination, and strategy." Lura nodded. She knew this was only the first step. The first test was a virtual combat simulation. A holographic enemy appeared, a large, armored creature with many limbs and sharp weapons. The simulation was designed to test how quickly and accurately a fighter could respond to threats. Lura's hands moved over the control panel, sending commands to her suit. The exosuit responded to every twitch of her fingers and nerve signals. At first she missed a few attacks. The hologram struck her shield hard, but she learned quickly. She used her training to dodge, block, and counterattack. Her movements became sharper and faster. The crowd watched in silence as the simulation showed her progress. When the simulation ended, Lura had a high score. Not the highest, but better than most expected. After the simulation, there were physical trials. Lura had to climb a wall, jump over obstacles, and balance on narrow beams. The exosuit supported her movements, but she had to rely on her strength and balance. Many competitors laughed when they saw her, an alien noble daughter in a suit trying to keep up with fierce warriors. But Lura ignored them. Every step, every jump, every hold was a victory. By the end of the day, Lura's name was on the leaderboard, far higher than anyone predicted. Mason watched with pride, but also worry. This was only the start. The real challenge was still ahead. In the days that followed, Lura trained harder than ever. Mason was not just her engineer, he became her coach. He studied old human training methods and combined them with the alien fighting styles she needed to know. Lura learned to use her intelligence as a weapon. She studied opponents' patterns, looked for weaknesses, and practiced strategies. One afternoon, Mason handed her a tablet with battle recordings. "Watch this," he said. "The key to winning isn't brute force, it's thinking ahead." Lura spent hours analyzing. Slowly, her confidence grew. Meanwhile, news of Lura's progress spread through the colony and reached the Baron. The Baron's face darkened as he watched reports of the useless daughter, winning challenges and beating skilled fighters. "How dare she?" he growled. "She is a disgrace to my house." His officers urged him to stop the trials, to remove her from the competition, but the Baron refused. "If she wins, she will only shame me more," he said. But if she loses, then I will have the last laugh. Lura felt the weight of the Baron's eyes on her even from afar. The whispers and doubts tried to shake her resolve. One evening as she trained, Mason found her sitting alone, tired and frustrated. "Why do you still doubt yourself?" Mason asked. Lura shook her head. "Because my father doesn't believe in me. Neither does my family. They think I'm weak." Mason sat beside her. "They are wrong. You are strong in ways they cannot see. You have courage, heart, and a mind, sharper than any sword." Lura looked up, her eyes brightening. "Then I will show them." The semi-final match was announced. Lura would face her toughest opponent yet, a four-armed warrior from the Baron's elite guard. The warrior was large, strong, and known for crushing opponents quickly. The day of the match arrived. The arena was packed with excited spectators. The Baron sat in the front row, his expression cold but watchful. Lura entered the ring, standing tall despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Her opponent roared and charged. The fight was brutal. The four-armed warrior attacked with powerful strikes and fast moves. Lura dodged and weaved, using her suit to block and counter. She couldn't match the brute force, so she relied on speed and intelligence. At one point, the warrior grabbed her leg. The exosuit's sensors malfunctioned. The brace that helped support her leg lost power. The crowd gasped. Lura stumbled but did not fall. She stayed calm, using her hands to push and grab, twisting to free herself. She rolled on the ground, crawling away quickly. Then, with a burst of energy, she flipped onto her feet and struck the warrior's side with a precise strike. The crowd erupted in cheers. The warrior retreated, surprised. Lura saw an opening. Using quick thinking, she dodged the next attack, slipped behind him, and disabled one of his weapons with a sharp strike. The warrior faltered. Then Lura made her final move. With strength she never thought she had, she pushed the warrior to the ground and held him there. The referee called the match. Lura had won. The crowd chanted her name. Mason felt tears in his eyes as he watched. The Baron sat silently. His pride was shattered, but no words came. Lura looked to Mason and smiled. "I'm not useless," she said quietly. "I'm a warrior." Mason smiled back. "You are a legend in the making." That night, Mason worked late in the workshop. He upgraded Lura's suit with new parts, stronger motors, better sensors, and a shield system. Lura watched, excitement and determination in her eyes. "We have one more step," Mason said. "The final match." Lura nodded. "Then let's be ready." The legend of Lura was just beginning. She had risen from the shadow of doubt and pain to become a symbol of hope and strength. The galaxy was watching, and she would not disappoint. The day of the final match arrived. The entire arena buzzed with excitement and tension. The stands were packed with beings from across the galaxy, humans, aliens of many kinds, and even some curious merchants who rarely missed an event like this. Lura stood in the locker room, her suit freshly repaired and improved by Mason's careful hands. Her heart raced, but her mind was steady. She had worked for this moment. Every step had led her here. Mason approached, holding her helmet. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Lura nodded, taking the helmet. "I'm ready to show them who I really am." The Baron watched from his private box. His face was tight, the cold pride he always wore now mixed with fear. He refused to believe the girl he called useless could defeat the champion. The champion was a war beast from the Baron's own elite guard, a massive creature with 4 arms, covered in thick armor and scars from many battles. Its eyes glowed red, and its growl echoed through the arena. The announcer's voice boomed. "Final match, the challenger Lura against the reigning champion Brakthar." The crowd erupted in cheers and shouts. Lura stepped into the arena, feeling every eye on her. The ground was rough and uneven, made for a true test of skill and strength. The massive gates behind her clanged shut. Brakthar appeared opposite her, towering and fierce. The match began. Brakthar charged immediately, swinging his 4 powerful arms in a deadly dance of attacks. Lura dodged and rolled, her suit absorbing many blows, but she refused to stay on the defensive. She watched the beast carefully, studying its moves. Each strike was fast, but the patterns repeated. Using Mason's training, she stayed just out of reach, using the terrain to her advantage. She ducked behind pillars, leaped over obstacles, and struck only when the opening was perfect. At one point, Brakthar grabbed a heavy metal beam and swung it at her. Lura barely blocked it with her shield, the force sending her backward. The crowd gasped, but she did not give up. She remembered Mason's words. Use your mind, outthink your opponent. Lura used a trick. She dropped to the ground and rolled behind the war beast. Before it could react, she activated a small EMP device hidden in her suit. A pulse of energy surged out, disrupting the beast's armor and sensors for a few seconds. Brakthar roared in confusion and pain. Seizing the moment, Lura struck at the beast's legs with precision, causing it to stumble. The crowd cheered wildly. Brakthar recovered quickly, anger flashing in his eyes. He swung his arms wildly, smashing obstacles and causing dust to rise. The arena trembled with each hit. Lura's suit sensors blinked red. The strain was too much. The support system in her left leg began to fail again. She stumbled, almost falling. The crowd's cheers turned to worried murmurs. Lura clenched her fists. Not now, she whispered. She pushed herself up, ignoring the pain and weakness. Slowly, she crawled toward cover. Her breathing was heavy. Her body shook, but her spirit was strong. Mason, watching from the control room, clenched his fists. Come on, Lura. You can do this. Lura used every last bit of strength and willpower. She crawled under the ruins of a broken wall and hid. She could hear Brakthar searching for her, roaring in frustration. Her mind raced. There was one chance left, a risky move. She reached into her suit and pulled out a small, sharp blade. As Brakthar approached, she threw the blade at his armor's weak point, a gap near his back. The blade stuck. The war beast howled, turning to attack her. Lura dashed from her hiding spot, using the moment of confusion. She rolled under Brakthar's swinging arm and grabbed one of his legs. With all her remaining strength, she pushed and twisted. Brakthar fell with a heavy crash. The arena went silent for a moment, then erupted in thunderous applause. The referee raised Lura's hand. She had won. Backstage, Mason rushed to her side. You did it, he said, eyes shining. Lura smiled weakly. We did it. They knew this victory was not just about winning a match. It was a symbol, a message to the galaxy that strength was more than muscle, and courage came in many forms. The Baron sat alone, silent. His plan had failed. His daughter, once a joke, was now the champion. Lura's name spread across the stars. She became a legend, a symbol of hope and determination. That night, as the arena lights dimmed, Mason and Lura sat quietly. What's next? Lura asked. Mason looked at her. Now, the world watches, and we prepare. The journey was far from over. But they had won the battle that mattered most, the battle for respect, for freedom, for a new future. The morning after her victory, the sun rose over the colony with a gentle light. Lura stood on the balcony of Mason's small home, looking out over the city. The quiet streets were waking up, but her mind was already racing. She felt different, stronger. Not just because of the exosuit or the matches she had won, but because she had found something she never had before, her own voice. Mason joined her, holding 2 cups of steaming tea. You did something no one thought possible, he said quietly. Lura smiled. I did not do this alone. You helped me see who I could be. Mason handed her a cup. The galaxy will remember your name. She took a sip, feeling the warmth spread inside her. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. Word of Lura's victory spread quickly. The news traveled through star systems carried by travelers, merchants, and news networks. Stories of the human who helped a paralyzed alien girl become a champion captured hearts everywhere. Some called her a hero. Others, a symbol of change. But not everyone was pleased. The Baron, once proud and cold, was now forced to face the truth. His daughter, whom he had thrown away as a joke, had outshined his elite warriors. The shame burned in his chest. In his chambers, he stared at a hollow portrait of Lura. "She has become a legend," he muttered, "and I am the fool." Meanwhile, Lura continued training. She and Mason worked together to improve her suit, adding new features, enhancing her strength and speed. But more than that, they built her confidence. She began to speak at gatherings, telling her story, not just as a fighter, but as someone who believed in the power of never giving up. One day, a messenger arrived at Mason's home. It was an official invitation from the Galactic Council. They wanted Lura to join as a representative, a voice for those who had been ignored or dismissed. Lura read the message aloud. "They want me to speak for the weak, the broken." Mason smiled. "You're the perfect choice." At the council hall, Lura stood before leaders from many worlds. Her presence commanded respect, not because of her strength, but because of her courage and story. She spoke with clear voice. No one should be cast aside because of their body, their past, or their limits. Every life has value. Every person can become a legend if given a chance. The leaders nodded, some moved to tears. Back home, Mason and Lura looked up at the stars. "Do you remember when you were just a joke?" Mason asked. Lura laughed softly. "Now I am a legend." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "Thank you for seeing me." Mason smiled. "Thank you for believing." The galaxy had changed, not because of weapons or power, but because one human saw the value in someone others had given up on. Together, Mason and Lura showed the stars that hope and courage could shine brighter than any armor, and their story would inspire generations to come.